Hello, guys. I am live. I am back, day 2. And guess what? Live both here on Insta Stories and on YouTube. And my audio is for sure working. Yay for troubleshooting, testing things, and figuring it out. So, welcome to the Pod News. My name is Christine O'Donnell. I'm an Emmy-nominated TV news reporter and podcast coach. So, I am going to read the Pod News. So, if you're interested in what's going on in the podcasting industry, let's get to it. Pod TV launches on smart TVs and the web. Big surprise. Hello, everyone. All right, so let's see what this means. Podcasts are now available on TV. Pod TV is now available on TCL, Smart TV Channel 1048, or on Roku. It's also free on their website. The shows that are currently on Pod TV are The Jordan Harbinger Show, Trigonometry, I wonder what that's about, and The Gangster Chronicles. I really truly feel like video live streaming, this is the future of podcasting. So one of the reasons I wanted to test it out and chat with you guys live. Hello, everyone who's joining. Hey, Mom. All right, let's keep rocking and rolling here. Most podcast listeners do not want to have to pay or donate money to listen to podcasts. This is not a surprise. We tested this out, right, guys, with Luminary. And that just, I think, showed us all that podcasters are not really up for paying for premium content. I'd love to know what you guys think about that, though. So if there's something you would like, if you have a comment on that, share that in the comment section below. Oh my gosh, I feel like an influencer. All right. The home screen in Spotify's mobile app is being refreshed, guys, with additional features for podcast listeners. So if you are on Spotify, you like listening to podcasts on Spotify, if you're a podcaster and you have your podcast on Spotify, listen in. All right. So the features are for podcast listeners to help them finish shows that they already started. It's called Global Premium. Those users, okay, so there is another cost here, can view new and relevant podcast episodes right within the home hub. New episodes will be marked with a blue dot, and the episodes you've already started will display a progress bar indicating how far into the episode you are. So for me, this sounds super helpful. I would love just a little bit. Sometimes I use Apple Podcasts mostly to listen to my podcasts. And I sometimes want to move on to the next show, but I don't want to finish my episode, but I do want to return to it after I listen to the next episode. And this sounds like an interesting feature. So I'm going to check that out. If you've used this already, let me know in the comment section below. Okay, next up. Dan Bongino's radio career was kickstarted by podcasting. According to new data from Westwood One, only 1 in 5 people listen to both the podcast and his radio show, suggesting that his AM/FM audience is incremental. Podbean has new embedded players. Okay, if you're a Podbean user, you want to check out their new embedded players, this is your chance. In the UK, podcast radio is now available in Birmingham, the second largest city in the UK. PodLP, a Kai OS podcast app aimed at developing countries, posted a blog piece about IPv6. It estimates that only a quarter of all podcasts are available on IPv6 only networks, like those planned in India. Advertisers Perceptions has published the podcast advertising marketing report. Some findings are reported by iHeartRadio's Insider Media. I'm going to open this up because I really dig data. So let's see what this data says. Advertisers are, and I'm reading this from insideradio.com. Advertisers are podcast listeners, and a new report finds that's also making them ad buyers. Okay, so if you're looking for sponsors in your show, this is a big deal. Christoph. Right. 56% of advertisers say the pandemic has made podcast advertising more important, according to the inaugural podcast advertising report. And this is from Advertisers' Perceptions. One of the factors is like other Americans, one of the biggest factors is, like other Americans, advertisers have tightened their embrace of podcasting during the pandemic lockdowns. Advertiser Perception says that nearly two-thirds of 63% of advertisers say they listen to podcasts at least once a week. And a solid majority listen, that's 56% listen multiple times a week. Okay, so the podcast advertisers are already listening to your show. So maybe this could be a fun test for people. Hey, if you want to advertise in my podcast, um, make sure to reach out to me. I've got, my email and my podcast. Send me a link if you want to be an advertiser. I'll talk to you about the pricing plan and we'll find something that works for all of us. That could be a really great addition to your show notes and you can test it to see what that engagement is like. And that could be a really fun way to perhaps monetize your show. Especially if the podcast advertisers are already listening. All right, I see, James is saying that he is accepting offers. All right, podcasts are media's little engine that could, in part due to familiarity, says Sarah Bolton, EVP, Business Intelligence at Advertiser Perceptions. I need to get her on my show. It's a little ASMR. Sorry, guys. Podcasts are advertisers get the podcast space, which is different from early days of social media platforms. Interesting. So I also think a lot of advertisers are still learning the podcast space. So while some are embracing it, I still think there's definitely room for growth and more advertisers to really understand how to use podcasts effectively to sell their products and podcasters to sell their products. Okay, just as critically, the new research also confirms podcasting delivers some of the best scores for advertisers across a variety of key metrics, from improving brand awareness and recall to boosting a brand's favorability and making people more likely to consider buying after they hear that product advertised in a podcast. Advertiser Perceptions data shows that 4 in 10 advertisers say their brand shined brighter after being associated with a podcast. Only paid social media television had a higher score, but only marginally. About a third said podcast advertising improves their brand's awareness and recall among customers, and 27% report podcast ads improve their brand buying consideration scores, which is on par with TV. And 1 in 5 say they see a direct link between podcast advertising and increased sales. So what I am getting from this, okay, there's a chart, there's a lot more here. I'm going to link to it either in the bio below or in my stories here on Instagram. There's just, if you are just starting out as a podcaster, or if you've been podcasting for a while and you're like, how am I going to grow? What's next for me? Live streaming could be next for you. It doesn't have to be on video. And perhaps getting ads in your show. Now, this is not something that really has been available to all podcasters, right? It's usually only the top 5% who have 5,000 downloads or more after that first month. So 5,000 downloads or more per episode after a month. Okay. So that's usually how it's been going for podcasts. This data shows me that there is a bigger opportunity for you to grow, especially if you can be everywhere. And if you can test doing the live thing, if you can test expanding like the ability for an audience to find you, and then also asking advertisers, hey, do you want to test your ad in my show? Why not? Let's see what kind of ROI you get. And that could be a really great, test for us all to figure out. Shoot me an email, like my email's in my contact page. Like that, I just think that there is definite room for just so much amazingness to happen. This article goes on and on. Again, I will link to it. I'm moving back to the podcast news because I do like to keep these videos nice and short, and we've been going for almost 10 minutes. Wah, wah. All right, next up. Wellbe, which makes health assistant smart speakers and smart watches, now has iHeartRadio content, including podcasts. So if you have a health and wellness podcast that would appeal to the demographic that would need a health assistant, make sure your show is submitted to iHeartRadio. Um, the older audience does listen to podcasts, and also they're usually the ones who pay for stuff as well. At least in my experience, testing different ads with different podcasts, and getting doing market research. Okay, they have a correction here in Adelaide, SA, Australia. The Pod Fiesta Summit has been announced for April 10th to 11th. We gave the wrong date yesterday. Alrighty. So that is what's going on here. Oh, they've got pod jobs also listed in the news in this pod news right here. Looks like the Daily Show with Trevor Noah is looking for a podcast writer and producer. I'm just a fan of Trevor Noah, so I saw that name and I thought I would shout out that job. Um, mm, Lots of jobs on here. So if you're looking to, moonlight in other podcasting industries, this could be a fun place for you. I will add a link to the podcast news in my stories as well as in the description here on YouTube. Thank you guys for listening to Reading the Pod News. My name is Christine O'Donnell. I am Emmy-nominated journalist and podcast coach, and I have a podcast. It's called Podcast Coaching with Christine. We are going to be relaunching with a bang this coming April. So if you'd like the latest on how to grow your show, how to stay motivated during the process, and, to maybe have some support, check me out. I think you'll really enjoy it. And that's all. That's it for today. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. Really appreciate you. Both places. Look at magic. All right. Have a good day.